It is time to check in with I want to call him our good friend. We've had him on a variety of times. That's André Fortin, who is the
We'd
liberal
like to be
health
better
critic.
friends.
We would. So, André, we begin first of all, thanks for coming on this afternoon. I know you've been have had a busy day today. We begin every conversation, André, so I have to ask it off the top and then we'll move on. You haven't changed your mind about running for leader of the Provincial Liberal Party, have you?
No, I haven't changed my mind.
Okay.
I'm happy to be here with you. No, I haven't changed my mind as far as becoming party leader. And that's part of why I said to the convention members this weekend that I'd be taking a more active role in trying to find party leader, because we certainly do need somebody at the helm of the party on a more permanent basis.
Okay, and so you also have not convinced Mauro Risky to run as leader? Not
No,
yet.
I did try to do that
I know.
a couple of weeks ago, but I know where she's coming from. She's got much of the same issues that I do. Mind you, her child is much younger than mine, but she also wants to extend her family. So it is a bit of a decision where you're torn between doing what you want to do right by your party and you want to do right by your family. And I guess that she's just not at the point where she can do both in the way that she wants to do it.
Yeah, I like that you kind of see eye to eye on that. You're coming from a similar perspective. Now, you said you made it clear you need a leader and you want a leader sooner than later, and yet your party does not seem to share that same sense of urgency, Mr. Fortin. So the decision has been made that there will be no leader in place till 2025. Why is that?
Well, the party is kind of in between a rock and a hard place here in that you go with a race too early, and you might not have the breadth of candidates that you want in a race like that. You go with a race that's too late, and all of a sudden it becomes maybe you're up against the wall in terms of organizing and finding candidates and getting your electoral machine in place. So I don't think there was a right decision in between the quick race and a longer race. Hopefully, though, this allows me and others to be out there and find people who are in a position where they can lead a party and do so for the foreseeable future.
All right, so let me get to that point, André. So this idea of you and you said others trying to find that leader, where are we looking for this person? I mean, what's the process?
Well, that's the beauty of this thing. There really is no process. It's not something that is. There's no manual on these things. You basically just have to try to find like-minded people and people who think somewhat similarly to what you do and who want to advance the society in with the same priorities and principles as you do. So those people may be in the business world today. They may be in other levels of government, whether it's municipal or federal. They may not be in any of these positions. But there's people out there that we know this who share our basic core values, and that's the people we have to be looking for. And to be honest, most of the party members themselves were at the same point as I was this weekend. As they are taking it upon themselves too to look through their networks, try to find that person or these people who could run and make it an interesting and, as Marwa put it, flamboyant race.
You know how it must sound to people listening to this that a party with a long history in this province of being in government and having well-known, premiers and leaders is suddenly trying to find someone who wants to be leader of this party and is looking everywhere they can, under every rock they can, just to find it. Yeah. It sounds, it sounds pretty tenuous.
Yeah, I get how it could sound that way. I absolutely understand that. I mean, we're exactly a year from our last election. We're 10 months from Dominique Anglade being leaving her position as party leader, and there's not an obvious person who is saying, I absolutely want to lead this place. There is Fred Beauchemin, who expressed interest in this and now finds himself in a bit of a, let's call it a tenuous situation. But it's sometimes candidates don't come right away. Sometimes they don't come from where you expect them to come from. I'm looking at the PQ these days, and I don't think when Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon ran the first time, anybody really saw him coming. And he at least is putting his party back on the right track, and it took a while, but he's getting there. And so it's possible to find a leader that may not have followed the same path as somebody or like Marwa or I would have would have followed if we decided to jump in this race.
And you don't want it to just be a simple like appointment. I know it's not an appointment per se, but you don't want somebody to just be crowned. You want it to be a real, actual race. But again, the issue is finding the candidates to have an actual race.
Yeah, exactly. It's always better for a party to have a race. It happens sometimes where people are appointed. I don't think Gabriel Nadeau-Dubois had a particularly interesting leadership race, and it didn't really affect his leadership ability at the end of the day. So it's not an absolute condition. But yeah, a leadership race energizes the party. It brings different ideas, different breadths of ideas, different perspectives on things, and hopefully at the end of the day, it doesn't cause too much of a rift in the party. But there's usually a pretty good advantage to energizing the party through debates and things like that over the course of the leadership race.
So, post, the tour across the province, the committee that set out that released that 75-page report, we had Antoine Dion-Charest on the show a few days ago. A lot of people were critical of that, saying there's not a whole lot there. And I know he kept saying this is a compass for, the Liberal Party's future. I get that. The argument is there's too many old school Liberals still in the party in positions of, authority. Is part of the process in finding a leader to find new blood? Or could you, and I'm just going to throw the name out there, could someone like a Jean Charest, who did as well as he did running the party, be someone that could be considered to run again?
I think we have to be honest about where we are as a party right now. And to me, we're not in a position to put an X on somebody just because they were involved in the past, or on the other hand, they never have been involved in the political party. I think there's if we get somebody from maybe an old hand from the party and we get somebody who's completely new to politics, who's never really done it before, then party members will have an interesting choice. But we're not really at a place as a party where we can simply afford to say, this is the exact mold of a person that we need. We have to be open to different backgrounds, different ideas, and maybe somebody who's going to force us to think outside of our traditional way of thinking as well.
So just back to this document for a minute, 75 pages, and if we're talking about trying to sort of reinvent and reinvigorate and energize the Liberal Party, did you see things in there that might lead to that? And if not, what do you think the party needs to do?
I like the way they framed it. And you can argue it both ways. You can argue that if they're too specific, then it's much like an electoral platform, and it really ties the hands of whoever leads the party next. And you can argue that if they don't go far enough, like some of the people who might have told you, there's just not enough substance in there and enough. And that's where it's a bit of a tedious process in that you have to put forward what you hear from the party members, but also make very serious and pointed propositions to draw attention. And you also have to leave enough wiggle room for the next leader to have his own ideas and be able to put them forward. So it's not a perfect process, but I think we really needed at this point kind of a compass, a way forward. And I like the fact that they did it in a constitutional document, which people will argue back and forth, is that good or bad? But the idea of really protecting rights of people, of individuals, whatever background they come from, is something that has always been at the core of the party and has to stay there. So the idea of enshrining that in a more formal document, to me, is something that hopefully can reach a lot of people.
Andre, just a final question before we wrap up. We had Marwa and Greg Kelly on last week talking about this CAC idea of raising tuition fees for out-of-province and foreign students. I'm just curious. I know there were some Liberal members tweeting out their approval with this and the fact that this was a bad idea. What's your take on this?
Well, I certainly agree with Greg. I saw Greg rise in the House today, and he specifically talked about Bishop, but I think it really applies to all of the complete of the CAC on this file. Bishop's University is in real trouble here. I think 40% of their students come from out of province, and if you don't think that's going to have a major impact on what they can offer, and eventually there doesn't put their survival at risk, I think you're sticking your head in the sand. So the approach on this to say, listen, this is an institution that was built by the English-speaking community. These three are institutions that were built by the English-speaking community, and there's a reason they exist. But there's also over and above the educational value that they provide, they allow people from outside the province to come here to get a little bit of our culture, get a little bit of who we are in Montreal, and take that back with them. I don't think we ever should shy away from that or restrict that from other Canadians or people from across the world. It's an opportunity for us to shine. And if people from Ontario, BC, Alberta come to McGill, come to Concordia, or Bishops, and learn a little bit of the Quebec culture and bring it back with them when they go back to Alberta or BC, then I think that's a great thing for Quebec.
Liberal MNA André Fortin. André, always a pleasure. Thanks so much.
You.
We appreciate it.
All right. Have a great day.
Take care.
Too.
You too.